Well, firstly, as you said, Patrick, Knowsley is very much a Labour voting stronghold. I think the narrative that the people of Knowsley are taking their cues from a Conservative Home Secretary and papers like the Sun, I find that narrative a bit suspect, if truth be told. I think that one of the things that I'd really like to point out is the fact that as a country, when it comes to the dispersal of asylum seekers, it's grossly unfair on the poorest parts of the country. Back in April 2017, there was an analysis which showed that 57% of asylum seekers, a comfortable majority, were being rehomed in the poorest third of the country. There was a more recent analysis last year which showed that 1 in 4 asylum seekers were being rehomed in just 10 local authorities, the majority of which are deprived inner city areas in cities such as Cardiff, Glasgow, Stoke-on-Trent, and a string of left behind northern towns. So I think there needs to be a discussion in terms of whether or not wealthier, more affluent parts of the country are doing their fair share when it comes to accommodating asylum seekers.
OK, Bushra, just in light of that, if I'm reading between the lines there, if some of these more, shall we say, lower economically advantaged areas, poorer areas, that's an easier way of saying it, poorer areas, are taking the brunt of this, is it actually quite, forgive me, quite snobbish of you to say that these people have all been indoctrinated by the far right and that that's where this quotes-unquote hate comes from? Actually, these are working-class, ordinary people who have legitimate concerns, Bushra.
Well, that's actually an interesting point, because some of these people that do come from those disadvantaged and deprived backgrounds, they're actually the group of people that are pro-refugees because they know what it's like to come from backgrounds where it is so difficult for them. And whilst I'm not saying that this is a 90% to a 10% case, of course, like, individuals will have their own preferences. But we also need to look at that perhaps this is a wider agenda to see that this country is actually being mismanaged. This is a distraction more than anything. This is to create divide within communities so the government get to do what they want and mismanage the country.
OK. Rakib, do you think that some people find it quite hard to accept that actually your average common man and woman on the street is not a racist? They just do not like the idea of taxpayers' money being spent on their local hotel or hotels in their town being filled with people who we may or may not know who they are or what their intentions are, and they feel as though that threatens their public safety. Do you think people maybe struggle to get their heads around the fact that it's that and not racism?
Well, I mean, when we're looking at Knowsley in particular, it's a corner of the country which is very much the definition of left behind. As a crumbling education system, I think has the highest proportion of people who are disabled and identified as being limited a lot, has a very high proportion of people who are providing a form of unpaid care. Knowsley isn't the kind of place that should be treated as some kind of relocation ground for asylum seeker dispersal. Actually, what it needs is emergency level public investment and social support. And the Home Office has a lot to answer for, actually, because it notified Knowsley Council less than 48 hours before they relocated asylum seekers to this particular hotel, which is ultimately the top-down central imposition of asylum seekers from Whitehall onto a hyper-deprived local authority in the northwest of England. I think it's deeply unfair.